If you are interested in SCP Secret Lab but haven't even run it yet, you should install it and make sure you even can. The game is free but Windows exclusive, needs a good computer to run, and may not be compatible with all hardware. Most of this video was made between December and March and was postponed to make revisions for the new 9.6, so the majority of the footage used in this video was taken prior to the Scopophobia update. There is even some pre-Megapatch 2 footage here. On screen should be everything that differentiates the footage. The most major thing you need to know while watching this video is that 9.6 used to look like this, and in the current version of the game, they look like this. Both are present in the video. To those who haven't played and don't know much about Secret Lab, this game is a very social game, and I would highly suggest you have a microphone. The general experience you will have in this game is typically determined by the people you play with. Most servers are community hosted, some with gameplay variations and differing levels of moderation. You can learn about what kind of server you are playing on by checking the info tab. This appears on the right side of the menu when you select a server. With that, we can get into the guide. The premise of the game is that the SCP Foundation has had a containment breach at one of their facilities. The Foundation sends in the MTF to recover their important personnel and eliminate everything else. We have 3 teams and 4 locations. The teams are Class D, Mobile Task Force, and the SCPs. The zones are Surface, Entrance, Heavy Containment, and Light Containment. A match starts with Class D and Scientists in Light Containment, Facility Guards in Entrance, and SCPs in Heavy Containment, except for 173. When D-Class escape, they join the Chaos, and Scientists join the MTF. Waves of MTF or Chaos Insurgents will spawn every few minutes on the surface. These waves consist of about a dozen spectators choosing from those who have been dead the longest. Now, what is each team supposed to do? The MTF, of course, want to re-secure the facility. They must rescue Scientist personnel and eliminate any threats to the safety and secrecy of the Foundation. So, the SCPs, D-Class, and Chaos. The primary objective of the D-Class is to do whatever they can to get out.
Okay, we're good. Let's go!
The Chaos Insurgency, being an anti-SCP Foundation group, wants to help liberate them and wipe out the MTF team. They only need to concern themselves with fighting SCPs to the extent at which it helps them save the D-Class. SCPs must simply kill everyone involved at the Foundation. This means the MTF team and D-Class. Let no one escape and prevent MTF from retaking the facility. A match is over when there are no enemies left to fight. The round ends in an MTF victory when no D-Class have escaped, the MTF have retaken the facility, and at least one Scientist got out. If they aren't able to rescue a Scientist but they achieve everything else, the match ends in a stalemate. Alternatively, when the MTF are defeated, it's an SCP win. Unless the D-Class escaped, in which case the D-Class win. Of course, the D-Class team can also win when they and the Chaos are the last ones standing, but all that really matters is that one of them survives and the MTF don't. There is a heavy incentive for both MTF and SCPs to make a priority out of preventing D-Class escapes, because when they do, the only way the D-Class can lose is if the MTF retake the facility, which causes a stalemate. So for SCPs, if they have to make a choice between killing a Scientist and D-Class, they should kill the D-Class. This doesn't mean they should ignore Scientists. They are still a required part of the MTF's win condition. If you spawn in a game and are unsure of what to do, the screen will tell you what your objectives are. If you miss them, hold F1 and it will display a short overview of your role. In this guide, I'll be covering navigation and gear before I cover the SCPs themselves. Understanding everything else about the game first will help provide context to the PvP. Of course, the SCPs are the stars of the game, and all the information in this guide will only be so useful if you don't know about them and their general gimmicks. So to go over them briefly, SCP-173 is the statue. Some people call it the peanut. They cannot move when they're in a clear line of sight. Everyone on the server blinks simultaneously every 3 seconds, so they will jump a certain distance when you do so. If they reach you, they will snap your neck and you will die. They spawn locked in a room up a spiral staircase in light containment. 173 will be unable to leave for 25 seconds. SCP-096 is the Shy Guy. They function opposite of 173 in that you don't want to look at them. When 096 is seen or shot, they will become enraged, being able to trace any targets who have triggered them through walls, and there won't be many ways to escape them. If you hear an enraged 96 nearby and haven't seen them, stay out of the way. Anyone who hasn't spotted or shot them won't be visible during their rage, and every additional person who does will temporarily make 096 stronger. 96 spawns outside the door to their containment in Heavy. They will be immediately free to roam around. SCP-939 refers to these things. We usually call them dogs. Up to 2 can spawn and they can move at roughly the same speed you do. They are the only SCP that can sprint like humans. Their attack deals 65 damage and inflicts amnesia, which prevents you from reloading and using your inventory. They can sneak around without making a sound or speak to try and convince you that they aren't what they are. Your only advantage against them is that they are blind and can't see you until they have caught you moving nearby in what would be their line of sight, or you're just making enough noise. You can also be caught if they collide with you. 939 spawns at the bottom of a pit and heavy. To get out, they need to travel up this spiraling ramp. SCP-106 is the Old Man, some call him Larry. They can walk through doors and set a teleport location on the ground anywhere they choose. If they hit you, you'll be sent to the pocket dimension where your health slowly drains. The longer you stay, the faster it will drop, so you'll want to pick one of the 8 halls and walk through them. The odds are slim, but you are able to escape if by chance you manage to choose the right one. When you do, it will drop you outside of 106's room. When you don't, you just die. Their attack has a cooldown on successful hits, so if a human has just been grabbed, it will take you 3 seconds before you can attack again. Another thing to keep in mind is that when 106 sends you to the pocket dimension, they will also deal 40 damage. So if you have less HP than 40, you will die on the spot instead. 106 spawns in heavy at the bottom of their containment chamber. They will need to travel up a set of stairs to get out. SCP-049 is the Plague Doctor. They are an SCP that kills on contact, but like 106, they also have an attack cooldown. After someone dies, regardless of how it happened, there is a 10-second period in which 49 can revive them, turning the player into a zombie. It takes them 7 seconds to revive, so they won't be able to bring back multiple people who have died at the same time. Zombies have a bit more health than human players, but are still prone to headshot damage and can be killed quickly so long as you are armed. Otherwise, they can be trouble. 49 spawns on their own floor, needing to walk down a short hall and take an elevator to reach heavy. SCP-079 is the computer. They have access to all the facility's cameras, doors, and Tesla gates. While their means of killing you themselves are limited, if they're traveling with any other SCP, one locked door can mean your doom. There are very few methods of countering an experienced 7-9 player. 7-9 can also talk to humans using speakers placed in specific rooms. A coordinated SCP team can easily control the match and wipe everyone out. As powerful as they may seem, however, they are definitely not invincible, and with the right know-how, they have a few ways of being dealt with. I'll be getting more into them closer to the end of the video. If you want to get a feel for the game and explore the facility without any major threats or time constraints, depending on whether or not your setup lets you, you can create your own private match where you're free to run around by clicking play and create game. I'll be using this to showcase a couple things. I'm sure if you've ever played a computer shooter before, then you'll probably know the basic movement controls. They can all be customized, but by default, E is to interact, such as for opening doors or picking up items. Shift is to run, C is to walk, Q is for proximity chat, and V for radio chat. Tab is for inventory, left click equips and right click drops, N is where you can mute, view Steam profiles and report hackers, not rule breakers, P toggles the UI, and Control N opens the radar. Actually, that last one isn't real. Control N crashes the game or something and there is no map. Not to say that there aren't layouts, however, there are 5 for each zone. The only thing about them that gets randomized is what is on each end. The hallways have variants as well. In the light containment layouts, however, the Class D cells are always in the same spot, and because the following room for each one is different, D Class can immediately know the layout within the first few seconds of the match. Coming out of Class D spawn, if the first room is a left turn, you are in the hub layout. There is also 2 straight halls afterwards, so it's easy to remember. If the first room is a right turn, the layout is L. This layout normally has no default straight halls. It's easily the smallest layout, and you don't want to spend a lot of time here. If the first room is a straight hall, the layout is PSI. If the first room is a T intersection with hallways on both sides, the layout is light ring. However, if the door on the right leads to an end, then the layout is mess. This is light containment's largest layout. Most of the ends are spaced out from each other, so you'll want to follow this route on screen for the highest chance of finding loot. Scientists will spawn at specific ends and the washrooms hall. With 8 ends each layout and 25 straight hallways total, they have too many starting locations to memorize the layout from the first room. However, layouts typically have some distinct room combinations from each other and eventually start to get familiar. The longer you play, the less aimless wandering you will be doing. Getting around light containment isn't all too difficult. You'll be able to tell what's behind a door before you open it because each of them are conveniently labeled. HS and HC refer to basic straight and curved hallways. IT and IX refer to intersections. AL refers to an airlock. This is a hall variant with a section of doors where when one opens, the other one closes. There is also a small space in these rooms for hiding. Other hall variants include WC, the washrooms, and VT, the green room. I'll be talking more about the ends later, but the 8 of them are identified as 914, which is the upgrade room, 012, PC-15, GR-18, and PT, which are loot rooms, GR-18 being scientist spawn location and PT being 173's room, 00 is the light armory, outside of which is another scientist spawn location, and then there are 2 exits, labeled EXA and B. These are also scientist spawns. After passing through a checkpoint, there is a set of elevators that will take you to an end in heavy containment. Light will only be accessible for 15 minutes. Afterwards, all the doors and elevators lock shut, and anything remaining inside will die to gas. This is referred to as decontamination. This process is done to prevent people from hiding in light and prolonging the match. You'll be safe so long as you can reach an open elevator and send it to heavy before the last second of the countdown finishes. The doors will open after the elevator stops, but only for a moment. To continue on the subject of navigation, I want to skip over to Entrance Zone, which is probably the easiest to get around no matter what role you have. Like Class D spawn in Light, there is a singular checkpoint between Entrance and Heavy that is always on the same end of the entrance layout. It's always followed by 2 straight halls, but afterwards, if you arrive at 2 turns, usually but not always with the intercom room at one of them, you are in the corner layout, which is pretty straightforward. Quick side note, the intercom room is a small place where, as a human, you can broadcast your mic across the facility for a set amount of time. One good use for this would be for the MTF to try and negotiate a surrender from a non-compliant D-class they wish to detain, but normally it's just used by the Chaos to expose themselves to everyone. By the way, MTF spawns are announced by the facility. Chaos spawns are not. However, their theme can be heard by D-class, so only they will know when the Chaos show up. Returning to the layouts, all the other ones are followed by cross intersections. If only left isn't an end, the layout is branches. It's similar to corner, only that the ends further down are a little more spaced out. It also only has 5, so if you don't find a gate at the first intersection, your odds of finding one at any of the branches are pretty good. If back at the first intersection, only the right side is an end, the layout is entrance squares. This is the largest of the entrance layouts. After meeting with the first intersection, if on the right there isn't a gate, you'll want to turn left and follow the wall. This is where most of the ends will be. The last 2 layouts have ends on both the left and right, so you'll need to travel 2 more rooms to identify them. This one is entrance line, and this one is hook. So long as all the doors are open, these layouts are pretty sniper friendly, so I'd stay close to the walls if you aren't sure whether or not someone's waiting to shoot you. Aside from gate A and B really being the only things in this zone, there are 3 hallway variants. Side office refers to this room with the lower level to it. This is useful for hiding or looping around an SCP. Cubicle office refers to the office with the cubicle. You could hide in it, but it's easy to check. The wall isn't high enough to hide the top of your head either. There is potential for there to be a locker here, which can carry certain kinds of loot. Locker office refers to the room with the upper floor. I suppose it doesn't make sense to call it locker office anymore, but there used to be guaranteed spawns for lockers here. They don't always spawn now. I guess while going over the maps I should mention surface, which is the same every game. Chaos spawn under this bridge from a truck, and the MTF up this ramp from a helicopter. The Chaos usually go down the gate A elevator over here, and the MTF down the gate B elevator over here. The only other 2 things are the nuke start room and the escape hall. D-class and scientists will travel down the escape hall to get out and join their respective teams. Lastly, we have heavy containment. The exit elevators from Light will take you to a random end, and so will entrance checkpoint. So there aren't any consistent locations from which layouts can be quickly identified. Not that there aren't other tricks for figuring them out, however. Heavy containment has 6 ends, the 3 not yet mentioned being 79's room, 106's room, and 96's room. There are a handful of hallway variants, being server room, micro hall, 939 room, 49 hall, ammo room, and warhead silo. The warhead silo elevator will take you up to a room with a nuke inside. The purpose of the nuke is to be a swift means of eliminating everything that is inside of the facility. After the nuke is enabled, there is a button you can push in this room on the surface that will activate it, but it requires a high-level keycard. Even if the door could be destroyed, which it can, 96 can break it, you would still need a card to expose the button, as it is initially sealed closed. The nuke starts with 90 seconds before detonation. It can be stopped by pressing the cancel button beside the enable switch in the warhead silo. If you don't want it to go off again, you'll want to both cancel and disable it. After the nuke is stopped, it takes a moment before it can be started again, and when it does, it will count down from a time close to what remained when it was stopped on an interval of 10, the lowest countdown time being 30 seconds. If you're going to flee from the facility, you're going to want to be on the surface before the countdown finishes. Blast doors will cover both the elevators at the last second, so you won't be able to slip out right before the detonation like you can when escaping decontamination in light containment. If you're going to try and shut it down, you need to reach the warhead silo before only 10 seconds remain, after which detonation becomes inevitable. As one more hall variant, there is also the obstacle of Tesla gates, of course, a great reason to watch where you're going. Tesla gates should be respected by all players, as it will kill everything that stands near them. I've seen a few comments on my older videos asking about how to get past Tesla gates. As for timing, I would take a moment to sit by one and let it zap a few times to try and take note of how long it takes for it to stop zapping. There are times where the Tesla will seemingly skip a zap, but I wouldn't count on it if you're fleeing from something. All I can say is that you can jump through a bit earlier than you might think. As for Heavy's layouts, again, there aren't a lot of great ways to identify them beyond just memory. With time it gets easier, but for anyone who is new, there are a couple tricks I can share. When you come out of a checkpoint or an exit elevator, start by going straight if possible for as long as you can. Normally you'll find a combination of halls that will help you learn about the layout you're in. If the first room is an intersection and the following room is an end, the layout is Heavy line. This is the only layout with ends in Heavy that share an intersection. This layout can be really good or really bad depending on what ends are what. The other layouts have a few distinct ways of being identified, but not as easily as those in other zones. Heavy Ring is the only layout with 2 consecutive straight halls that isn't line. Middle Circle sort of feels like line if they added a circle in the middle. Heavy Squares has a lot of Tesla gates. If it feels like you run into one every second or third hall, this is probably the layout. Tetris is just as big and confusing as Light Containment's mess. It does have a lot of unique features that make it easy to identify though. It's the only map with a cross and T intersection adjacent to each other, as well as the only map with 2 turns together, and this hallway is almost always a Tesla gate. Usually with Heavy, there are just a handful of room combinations that make it quickly apparent that it isn't any of the other layouts. While of course it helps to know all of these, remembering all of them is not really as important as remembering what tools you need to actually get around. Before a D-Class or Scientist can leave Light Containment, they have to get past a checkpoint, which requires a keycard. If they want to get to Surface, they'll also need gate access. The D-Class don't spawn with anything, and Scientists spawn with the wrong card. If they want to get out, they'll have to find better cards or create them. In a match of 20 players, odds are there won't be enough cards for everyone. Fortunately, players can only carry up to 3, so you won't need to worry about one person hoarding all of them. There are 3 different cards that can be found in Light Containment: the Janitor card, the Scientist card, and the Zone Manager card. As for their locations, there's a guaranteed Scientist card in PC-15 on one of the desks. There's also a chance to find cards inside of a locker here. There are 7 locations for lockers, and only 3 to 4 will spawn. Other locker spots in Light include GR18, PT, and VT. The other 3 are in the offices and entrance. Cards can show up in the washrooms, but there is no guarantee. In 012, a Zone card always shows up, but you need to get past this locked door to grab it. In order to open it, you need a card with the right access. There are 6 access types: 3 levels for containment, 3 levels for armory, checkpoint, gate, intercom, and nuke. The Janitor card only has containment tier 1, which only makes it good for opening the door to SCP-914. The Scientist card has containment tier 2, which now unlocks 012, as well as the 096 door in Heavy. The Zone Manager card only has containment tier 1, but also has checkpoint access. While of course you can get to entrance with this, you still can't open the gates. The guards can't go to Surface either. The only difference between their cards and a Zone card is that they have Armory Access Tier 1. This allows them to enter the Ammo Room in Heavy and the 00 Armory in Light. While of course this card is only good for so much, if you're trying to escape and are in Heavy Containment without cards, you can find a guard card on a shelf in the Warhead silo. Until the Chaos or MTF arrive, the only gate card in the facility is the MTF Lieutenant card, which consistently spawns in 096's room. As stated before, you can open 96's room with a Scientist card. If you're in Heavy but don't have the card, you can find one in the server room. There are 2 places for it to show up, and it will always be there. There is only the one gate card, of course, and if you come to 96 and find it's already been looted, you'll probably have to go back to Light. So unless you're able to get into Heavy quickly at the start of the match, I would just upgrade your cards at 914. The upgrade room, SCP-914, is a room with a machine that has an input and output with 5 settings. You drop an item in the intake, activate the machine, and pick up an item from the outtake that changes based on the setting the machine was on. The rough and coarse settings will both downgrade items. Rough downgrades more than coarse. 1-to-1 will usually swap the item with something of equal value. Sometimes it does other things. Fine is the standard upgrade setting. You'll likely be using this the most. The very fine setting is unique in that it can have more than one outcome for specific items. For a lot of things, Very Fine is a gamble upgrade between a greater upgrade, no changes at all, and the destruction of the item. So unless you know what you're doing with it, I wouldn't play around with it while you're trying to escape. Canonically, standing in the machine would have an impact on you yourself, but by default, for a better gameplay experience, it doesn't do anything. So you're free to step inside and watch your items so long as the server you're playing on hasn't made any changes to 9.14. Fine will be the most reliable setting for getting a better inventory. The most ideal keycard to have is the 05 keycard, as it opens everything. From the Janitor card, here is the upgrade progression. Janitor becomes Scientist card, then Scientist becomes Major Scientist, meaning now you have checkpoint access. This also means you can access pedestals, which contain SCP objects. Pedestals require both checkpoint and containment 2 in order to be opened. The Major Scientist card becomes a Containment Engineer card. This has containment 3, intercom access, and nuke access. Containment 3 allows you to enter SCP-106's room and SCP-079's room. There isn't anything in 79's room, so it's really just a high security hiding spot, but 106's room has some important things inside for recontaining them, which I'll go over when I cover the SCPs more in depth. The Containment Engineer upgrades to the MTF Commander card. You drop to Containment 2 and lose nuke start access, but you can finally open gates. You also now have Armory Tier 3. You could leave now and maybe grab some weapons from an armory on the way out, but if you upgrade once more, you'll have the 05 keycard. The Guard card has a different upgrade progression, but still takes at least 4 upgrades to reach 05. The Guard card becomes an MTF Cadet card. This has Containment Tier 2 and Armory Tier 2. The Cadet card becomes an MTF Lieutenant, which just now adds gate access. The next two are MTF Commander and then 05. As for the Zone Manager card, it has its own upgrade progression. Upgrading the Zone card turns it into a Facility Manager card. This card can open everything but armories. Upgrading it once more makes an 05 key card. This is significantly faster than the upgrade process from the Janitor or Scientist cards. Luckily, if you don't have one, you can turn a Janitor or Scientist card into a Zone card by putting it in 9.14 on 1-to-1, which is still one less upgrade than normal. The faster you get out of 9.14, the better. The SCPs know people are going to be here, and they do have a few methods of getting inside. While of course you need cards to escape, there are many other items that can aid you on your way out. There are 3 types of medical items, each of which can be found alongside key cards and lockers. There's painkillers, medkits, and adrenaline. Like key cards, you can only hold a total of 3 medical items. Painkillers restore only 5 health, but have a regeneration effect that restores around 45 health in half a minute. These can be used quickly, but they probably won't save you if you're in immediate danger, so it's best to save them for downtime unless you have nothing else. Upgraded, they become the medkit, something that scientists and cabinets always spawn with. It restores for 65 health. They'll remove a burn effect you may get from explosions, however, you'll need SCP-500 to remove the concussion effect, which blurs your vision. It takes 4 seconds to use, so if you need to heal, it might be a good idea to flee and shut doors behind you for a room or 2. This will be considerably more helpful than painkillers if you are planning to fight back. Upgrading them turns them into adrenaline. Adrenaline grants you artificial HP, which is displayed above your normal health. You can have up to 75, and it will slowly decrease until it is gone. It also grants you infinite stamina for 20 seconds and some health regeneration. Adrenaline can help you tank loads of damage that would otherwise kill you, but artificial health will only absorb 70% of damage, so if you take a hit that wipes out the rest of your regular health, regardless of the artificial health remaining, you will die. You can get to adrenaline in 9.14 from painkillers faster by upgrading them on 1-to-1 instead. If you try to upgrade adrenaline on Fine, it will become SCP-500, which is one of the 4 SCP objects. This item category also has a max capacity of 3. SCP-500 is a bottle of pills that can swiftly restore all your health and add some regeneration for any following damage you may take. Besides being the best healing item, it also cancels the effects of SCP-207, another SCP object. 207 refers to an abnormal drink that allows you to move significantly faster. It also heals for 30 HP. Obviously, it's super useful for fleeing from enemies, or perhaps in the odd case where you have the advantage, pursuing them. The side effect is that your health slowly drains. While running, you lose 1 HP every second. If you remain still, it drops every 10 seconds. You can drink additional 207 and stack its effects up to 4 times. Your health will drop faster, but you will easily be able to run past Teslas before they can fire. I wouldn't expect to have these effects too often. There are 2 ways you can get SCP-207 in 9.14. One way is to gamble adrenaline on Very Fine. The odds are low, so I'd only try it if you have medical items to spare. Upgrading a flashbang on Very Fine is guaranteed to create 207, but flashbangs are not a common item for anyone who isn't a facility guard. If you have a flashbang but don't want 207, you can put the flashbang in 9.14 on Fine or 1-to-1 and it will make a frag grenade. If you put a grenade on very fine, it has a very small chance to create SCP-018. 018 is a ball that when thrown, for every time it hits a surface, it will bounce further and faster. In a regular-sized room, roughly after 10 seconds, the ball gets fast enough to deal serious damage and break windows and doors. The smaller the room, the faster it accelerates. Eventually, it explodes like a grenade. If you can throw it right, it can be used to break down doors that you don't have the right keycard to open. It requires some judgment, but the most effective way to use it as a weapon would be to trap an SCP in an elevator with it, which besides 106 would very likely kill them. SCP-268 is the last of the SCP objects, and it cannot be created using 914. It is a hat that makes the one who wears it invisible to everyone except 939 and 096 for 15 seconds. Afterwards, you won't be able to use it again for a little less than 2 minutes. The effect will disappear early as soon as you interact with a door or use an item. One of the best things it can do for you is get you out of a chase or help you escape from a dead end or camped elevator. What's important is that they don't see you using it. If they do, they can easily ruin your plans by shutting doors around you, forcing you to wait and end up revealing yourself.
He has the hat.
He has the hat?
He might be in this room.
No, man!
The hat can also be used to set up an ambush, so if you hear that someone on the enemy team may have the hat, it's a good idea to watch your back. Between 4 and 8 pedestals can spawn, and at least one of every SCP object will show up, SCP-500 being the most common, and SCP-018 and 268 never showing up twice. There are 3 pedestal locations in light containment and 6 in heavy. The last of the items are a few tools, and of course weapons. Weapon manager tablets, radios, and disarmers are a group of items with their own short 914 hierarchy. Weapon manager tablets spawn on all MTF and facility guards and are otherwise found in armories. They serve a couple of purposes. By placing them on a workstation, you can modify your weapon attachments. Any changes you make while using one will adjust the default attachments that appear on weapons you spawn with. You can also drop ammo with it, which can be done with the tablet in hand. You use the arrow keys to navigate it and select how much of what type of ammo you want to drop in a single mag. By the way, ammo types can be changed in 914. All 914 settings create the same output in this case, so it doesn't matter which one you use. Weapon manager tablets are also used for starting generators. Generators play a role in the containment of SCP-079, but I'll talk more about that later. When used in 914, tablets become radios on coarse, disarmers on fine, and have the potential to become a USP on very fine. Radios are another item that spawns on all MTF. Radios cannot be found anywhere in the facility, and you can only carry one at a time. MTF are going to want to be able to communicate with each other over a distance, especially since they have to terminate the SCPs and are going to need to work as a team in order to do that. You can turn the radio on and off with right click and change the range with left click. You'll typically want to use medium, as it probably has the best range to power usage ratio. The battery won't last forever, but medium will last you somewhere around 10 minutes. You can use ultra range if you want to broadcast information to your teammates across the whole facility, but you'll only be able to communicate with players who are also using ultra range. Disarmers are another important tool I need to cover. The function of a disarmer is that it can be used to handcuff a player from the opposite team. When you are handcuffed, your inventory drops and you can no longer interact with anything. You can be undisarmed if the one with the disarmer right clicks with it or gets too far away. Allies can also untie you by holding their interact key on you. The main purpose of the disarmer is to convert players with the escape roll from the other team onto yours. So if a D-class is detained and escapes while cuffed, they will become an MTF cadet instead of a Chaos Insurgent and add a point to the Scientist escape counter. The same thing can be done to Scientists for the D-class team. In a small match of say 3 players, the disarmer becomes necessary in order for the MTF team to win. One thing about it, however, is that you can only be disarmed if you aren't holding anything, meaning most of the time, you can't force a player into being detained unless they choose to comply. Scientists in D-Class spawn unarmed, but there are ways to get your hands on some weapons. Remembering the keycard progressions, if you're willing to sacrifice overall access for armory access, you can get into the light armory pretty quickly. It will have enough to arm you and 2 allies. If you're alone, you'll be able to take up to 2 weapons and 3 grenades. There are ammo limits as well. They aren't too restricting, but if you think you're going to take down a whole spawn wave by yourself, you'd best not be wasteful. The fastest way to get armed in light is to get your hands on the easily accessible Com-15. It can spawn in one of 4 locations, being washrooms on the left side, PT in the room at the top of the stairs, GR inside of the glass box, and 012 next to the zone card. Another less accessible but consistent Com-15 spawns in the light armory. The Com-15 will spawn with 12 bullets and can kill most humans with 2 headshots. Unless you are carrying extra ammo, I'd keep it hidden until you need it. You can find extra ammo in lockers. The Com-15 takes 9mm. If you land your shots right, the Com-15 can be lethal, but by By the nature of human versus human PvP in this game, the low rate of fire makes it a difficult weapon to take on your opponents at close range. It is best saved for when you have the luxury of precision and or stealth. The COM-15 can also be drawn the fastest, so if your enemy isn't currently holding a weapon in their hands, you'll have a large window of time to take them out. As for modifications, there are 3 categories for weapon attachments, being sight, barrel, and other. In this video, I'll be referring to the other category as the third attachment, just for clarity. The COM-15 has no sight attachments, but 1 barrel attachment and 1 third attachment. The barrel attachment is a suppressor. It makes shots quieter and reduces recoil, but also reduces damage from 21.4 to 19.3. It will be 2 headshots for a kill regardless, but against any human who spawns at the start of the match, the suppressor will increase body shots from 5 to 6. With the low rate of fire, this can be huge, and considering how Secret Lab lacks many opportunities for stealth kills in general, it may just be best to go without the suppressor. Not that stealth is impossible, it's just that most engagements happen in close quarters or in hallways with only so many places to go. The third attachment is a flashlight. There aren't many uses for a flashlight in Secret Lab, but if you get in a room with 173 and the lights go out, because you can't see them in the dark, they will be able to move around freely unless you can shine a light on them. Press F to toggle on and off. If as a D class you get your hands on the COM-15, you'll probably want to try and use it to take an MP7 off a facility guard. The MP7 carries 35 bullets per mag, and the facility guards spawn with 1 extra. It uses 7.62 ammo and has a base damage of 13.2. While the MP7 does less damage per shot, you'll be trading up for a higher rate of fire, which makes you much more of a threat. It won't be too effective against MTF or Chaos spawn waves though. Their weapons are far more superior in overall damage output. The MP7 serves to be just enough to put D-class in their place, while giving them a better chance to flee or retaliate. For the facility guards, if they use all their ammo, they may also be capable of taking down a lower health SCP. There are 2 sight attachments, both of which reduce recoil while aiming. The one you choose is up to preference. There is 1 barrel attachment, being the suppressor. All suppressors have similar effects on all weapons. The MP7 by default is a 2 headshot kill weapon on 100 HP opponents, but adding the suppressor will increase it to 3, bringing the damage down to 10.6. You also have less recoil without it, so you'd only be using it for the reduced sound. The only third attachment is an ammo counter. It's better to have it than not, especially for facility guards who need to manage their ammo usually more than anyone else. You can also check the amount of bullets remaining before you need to reload by going into the inventory and hovering over your weapon. The MP7 can be found in the light armory, as well as the 3x3 locker in one of the heavy armories. While the loot that can be found in the 3x3 locker is not consistent, the locker will always spawn in one of the 2 armories, one in the Warhead silo and one in 4-9's room. These require Armory Access Tier 2 in order to be opened. Alongside ammo, medical items, tablets, and disarmers, you can find other weapons in here too, a more rare weapon being the USP. The USP carries 18 bullets per mag and can deal the highest damage with a single shot in the game. It has a base damage of 25.5. Like the COM-15, it uses 9mm ammo. There is only 1 sight attachment. Whether or not you use it is up to preference. For barrel attachments, there is a silencer, which in Secret Lab is like the suppressor, only with higher stat changes. For damage, it is reduced to 20.4. There is also a heavy barrel, which does the opposite of the silencer, increasing damage to 31.9, as well as increasing recoil and sound. It also reduces rate of fire, but with this attachment, it will become the only weapon that can one-shot headshot all human players but the MTF commander. The single third attachment is a flashlight. It will accomplish everything that the COM-15 does and more. The overall rate of fire is slightly higher, and at base damage it can kill most humans in 4 body shots. While there's no doubt about it being a high damage weapon, it is still a pistol, and may not serve you well in all kinds of encounters. If you think you can take on a whole spawn wave or an SCP with it, be my guest. The USP can be consistently created in 914 from a COM-15 on very fine. Upgrading it on just fine, as well as with the COM-15 and MP7, will create the Project 90, or P90. The P90 carries 50 bullets per mag and takes 9mm ammo. It is the default weapon of the MTF Cadet. Its base damage is 14. It can be found consistently in the light armory and the 3x3 locker and heavy armories. There are 2 sight attachments, a red dot sight and a hollow sight. Which one you use is up to preference. There are 3 barrel attachments. There is a suppressor and a silencer, which again lowers damage, recoil, and sound, though the silencer doesn't improve recoil more than the suppressor. The last barrel attachment is a heavy barrel. It increases damage and sound, but reduces rate of fire. Lastly, there are 3 third attachments. There's a flashlight and ammo counter, and also a laser sight. This reduces recoil and dramatically reduces bullet spread while hip firing. Bullet spread refers to how much your bullets stray from the center of your crosshair while shooting. The laser will replace the crosshair, but it's hardly an issue. The P90 can easily stand up to the most powerful weapons in the game. It exhausts ammo quickly, but it's also pretty effective against SCPs. The P90, upgraded on Fine, will create the Epsilon 11 SR, the default weapon of the MTF lieutenants and commander. It carries 40 bullets per mag and is the only weapon that takes 556 ammo. Its base damage is 18.2. The heavy armory that doesn't spawn with the 3x3 lockers will have an Epsilon locker, along with lots of ammo. The Epsilon is debatably the best weapon in the game, besides the Logisser, which is the weapon of the Chaos Insurgency. It has the greatest range of attachments as well, some of which are better than others. It has 4 sight attachments. There is a night vision scope which allows you to see in the dark. It displays your current ammo and has a slight zoom as well. For a farther zoom, there's the sniper scope, which reduces recoil by a little bit, but otherwise allows you to try and aim more accurately a longer range. The other 2 sights are the blue dot and hollow sight, which reduce recoil more than the others. Next, there are 4 barrel attachments. Of course, there is a silencer for this weapon. The muzzle brake reduces damage to 16.3, but dramatically reduces recoil. The heavy barrel increases damage to 22.7, as well as increasing sound. Then there's the muzzle booster, which increases damage a bit less than the heavy barrel and dramatically increases recoil, but also raises the rate of fire. Lastly, for the third attachment, there are 4. Like the rest of the MTF weapons, there is a flashlight and ammo counter, but there's also a laser sight, like with the P90, and a gyroscopic stabilizer, which reduces recoil. Obviously, there's lots of attachments for you to modify the Epsilon to your liking, whether you want a high accuracy sniper or a high damage rifle for close quarters. If you are a cadet and your lieutenant or commander has died, I'd pick up their gun. Finally, we have the Logisser, the only gun that cannot be modified. It only spawns with Chaos, carries 75 bullets per mag, uses 7.62 ammo, and has a base damage of 19.8. You can create one in 914 using an Epsilon on Fine or an MP7 on Very Fine. With its high damage, rate of fire, and relatively large magazine capacity, it can easily shred through human players at close range, making it perfect for the main task of the Chaos Insurgency, wiping out the MTF. One of its downsides are its bullet spread, but with the amount of bullets it can fire before reloading, it can still be used against ranged opponents with some degree of effectiveness. The most significant downside of the weapon is its damage dealt against SCPs is cut in half. Together, the Chaos can still be a threat to the SCPs, but alone, they aren't too much stronger than a facility guard. If they want to fight SCPs, they should take weapons off the MTF. There is one more weapon, but I want to talk about grenades first. Flashbangs will consistently spawn on facility guards and in the light armory. If you flash someone well, they can be blind for 5 seconds, which is way more than enough time to either deal some damage or get past them. If you are a facility guard, hold on to them. If an SCP charges down entrance zone to try and kill you all, most layouts won't allow you to loop around them, and a flash may just get you out of a dead end. They're also good for trying to clear an area that you suspect is being camped. If you are a scientist or D-class and spot one on a dead body, you're gonna want to pick it up. You never know when you might be able to use it to help you escape. You can throw them a short distance with right click and long distance with left click. Grenades lose a lot of their speed after hitting a surface, so you'll want to try and make sure it reaches its destination after the first bounce. You don't need to worry about flashing yourself, so feel free to not look away. Flashbang effectiveness also relies more on proximity than it does on whether or not it's being seen, meaning you can flash someone on the other side of a door even if it's closed. Frag grenades are an equally important tool.
Have fun in there.
They spawn in MTF lieutenants and commanders, and consistently spawn in the light armory. Sometimes they can be found in the heavy 3x3 locker. Grenades take 5 seconds to detonate and make a beeping sound before exploding. There are usually more than enough cues to let you know when you need to get out of the way, but sometimes, and most often as SCPs, you can miss them. Grenades can do up to 1,000 damage based on how close you are to the explosion. This is huge considering how most SCPs only have around 2,000. SCP-106 has 10 times resistance to projectiles, but this doesn't include grenades, so they can be taken down in one. If you are being chased by an SCP, odds are if you throw the grenade behind you, they will probably have enough time to just walk past it, so in most cases it's good to throw it ahead. Figuring out how long it takes for an SCP to reach your grenade will require some judgment, and maybe a bit of luck. Something I forgot to mention in my main script is that items in Secret Lab have physics. Besides blasting things into the air, any other grenades near the explosion will also be detonated, so you'll want to watch out for that. We have one more item left to cover, the Micro HID. The Micro spawns in a dedicated room in Heavy. This room requires an Armory Access Tier 3 card to open, so either an MTF Commander, Chaos card, or O5. In 914, it can only be destroyed or recharged. The Micro is a powerful tool for taking down SCPs, potentially from full health. You probably won't be carrying one around that often, so it's important that you have a basic understanding of how it works. Holding right click will charge the Micro, not in the sense that you're restoring its power, but that you're preparing it. You need to hold the charge for 7 seconds before it's it's ready to fire. It'll use a little bit of power to charge up and maintain a charge. While the micro can deal hundreds of damage a second, it's not going to be that effective if you can't use most of its charge for firing. Once you are ready, and while still holding right click, hold left click to begin firing. It will take almost 2 seconds to start. The power will start draining much faster. The most time that the micro can fire for is 7 seconds, so long as none of the charge is spent idling. If you need to stop shooting but don't want to lose the charge, only let go of left click. Despite being far more forgiving than its predecessor, the micro is not an easy weapon to use right. SCPs can easily waste charge by closing doors around you, or by entering an elevator. When you want to kill an SCP using the micro, it's best to make sure you know where any escape routes might be for them first. The best SCPs to use the micro on are 096 and 106. 96 can't harm you until they are enraged, and are pretty slow during their startup and cooldown animations, so you'll have a large window of time to take them down. But beware, this time is best spent firing and not charging. If you are going to try and use the micro on 96, only one of you is going to walk away. 106 is a good SCP to use the micro on because of how terribly weak they are to it. Remember, 106 only has 650 HP. 106 will of course be capable of retaliating, and this goes for most SCPs. As for using the micro on SCP-049, it might be a better idea to just shoot them if they aren't being too difficult. If you do plan on using the micro on them, remember that they can kill you in one hit, and they have a bit more range than you might think. SCP-939 is probably the most capable of retreating and or fighting back. You'll want to make sure, more than with any other SCP, that you know what it might do or where it might go. It's not the most durable SCP, but a nuisance it can be. SCP-173 is probably the worst micro candidate. First, with their health of 3200, you'd most likely need to use all of the micro's charge on them. Second, because they can teleport, and you may not be sure where, you'll have to quickly readjust and get close to wherever they are again in order to keep dealing damage. You could pause for a moment, but it's going to take nearly 2 seconds for you to start firing again, and it only takes 3 seconds for them to teleport. You also need to consider that in order for the micro to be in range, you need to be in 173's range as well, making you an easy target. I'd only ever use the micro on 173 if they're the last one remaining, and or you have a squad to help finish them off. If you want to kill an SCP, only use it on one. It doesn't have the charge to take out two. And if you want to kill humans, it does that as well. I've covered nearly everything that one might need to know in order to play Secret Lab, but I've only touched on the basics of the SCPs. It's hard to understand certain parts of this game without understanding the rest. Now before I go into individual SCPs, I want to make it clear that in a large match where mostly everyone knows how to play, SCPs usually have it rough. I mentioned way at the start that waves of MTF or Chaos would spawn somewhere around every 5 minutes. By default, the MTF have 24 spawn tickets, and the Chaos 14. Both teams will want to try and gain more, as the ratio of tickets between them will have an impact on the chances of their team spawning over the other. MTF gains 1 ticket for every scientist escaped, Cuffed D-class escaped, and quarter damage to SCPs. Chaos will gain 1 ticket whenever a D-class escapes or a scientist dies. They'll also gain 2 tickets for every scientist that escapes Cuffed, and every time someone on their team uses an SCP object. Unless everyone on the server is an idiot, while very possible, SCPs don't have the health to tank all of them, and will need to play smart if they want to win. They are absolutely a huge threat to anyone wandering around on their own, but they're only going to win if they play smart and act quickly. The first SCP I want to talk about is SCP-173. We know that they are locked in a room in light containment for 25 seconds. Afterwards, you are free to roam. When you are close enough, you use left click to kill. The initial teleport distance is short, but once you start taking damage, you'll get faster and be able to teleport a greater distance. Some important things about teleporting. You teleport towards wherever you are looking. If what you are looking at is in range, you will teleport to it. This means you can look at a spot on the floor if you only want to move a certain distance. This is good for when you need better spacing. If you are cornering someone, you want to be just close enough that you can snap them on the next teleport, but not too close that they'll be able to just run past you. Another important thing to know is that it is a teleport. Usually if the destination is visible and you have the range, you will make it there even if the path is slightly obstructed. This goes for walls, doors, and furniture such as desks. It also means railings, so be careful teleporting in the ammo room. You can accidentally warp over the pit. Remember that you can jump as well. 173 can warp to a target at a higher elevation so long as you hold down your jump key before teleporting. This can be useful for players who are on top of bookshelves or balconies. As 173, even if you haven't spotted someone yet, you should always be prepared to attack. The 3-second blink timer doesn't begin every time someone sees you, rather it starts at the beginning of the match and just keeps going. So there may be times where you'll be able to teleport the moment you you are seen. 173 is arguably the most lethal SCP. Its weakness is that being seen forces you to stop moving and makes you highly vulnerable. Regardless of your team composition, unless the entrance layout is squares, 173 will want to avoid being an entrance, especially during a spawn wave. It doesn't take long for a squad of MTF or Chaos to tear 173 apart. Even just 3 players is enough to do serious damage. Not that you'll want to avoid damage entirely, in fact it's actually a good idea to try and get shot a little bit. Every bit of damage increases your speed and teleport distance by a certain percentage. Most players, even veterans, will usually assume 173 can only travel so far, so even as little as 100 or 200 damage can be great for exploiting their judgment. 9-6 is somewhat of a glass cannon in that they have great offense but not the best defense. I say somewhat because their weaknesses aren't the easiest to exploit, but wise human players can deal with 9-6 quite swiftly. I've named 4 states that 9-6 can be in. There is the calm state, the build-up state, the enraged state, and the cooldown state. The calm state is the default state of 9-6. They are slow and unable to attack. Until they become enraged, their only ability is to silence themselves against doors, which is done by holding right-click. Wandering humans will be listening for the cries of 9-6, and will likely turn away if they think they are nearby. Silencing yourself as 9-6 will be useful for trying to catch humans by surprise. Once 9-6 is seen from the front, or shot at, they will enter the build-up state, which after 6 seconds, transitions to the enraged state. When 9-6 is enraged, they will now be able to attack and can move very quickly. The only way a human is going to separate themselves from a 9-6 is to escape with an elevator. Otherwise, unless they have a plan to fight back, they are as good as dead. As 9-6, you will be able to trace those who triggered you through walls, break down small doors with your attack, pry apart large doors with right-click, and leap across rooms with a charge attack also done with right-click. This charge will send you flying in whatever direction you are facing and kill the first human that crosses your path. The only downside to the enraged state is that every human that hasn't also triggered you will become invisible. This invisibility only begins after the build-up state and will disappear early if they see you or shoot you. After a minimum of 15 seconds, your rage will end and you will enter the cooldown state, losing your abilities and all your speed for nearly 6 seconds before returning to the calm state. It isn't a huge difference, but you do move slower in cooldown than in calm. For 9-6's health, they only have 500 HP. This is very little, but humans will only be able to damage 9-6 if they can break through their artificial health, which unlike regular AHP, absorbs all damage and regenerates after a while. At first, 9-6 has 500 AHP, making their health a total of 1000. However, for every human that triggers them, they gain an additional 200. Most guns can't deal over 700 damage in 6 seconds, so trying to do incremental damage alone will likely be futile. If humans want to defeat them without the micro or grenades, they will have to work together. 9-6's most vulnerable states will be during the build-up, and most especially during the cooldown. When 9-6 switches to the cooldown state, their maximum AHP will return to 500, meaning they will have 1000 HP or less, depending on how much damage they have taken during their rage state. Obviously, if you're going to try and kill 9-6 with guns, they're going to have to be enraged at least once, assuming every role is using their default weapons. Here is how things may work for attacking 9-6 in their build-up state. Facility guards can just barely turn the ratio in their favor if there are 4 of them, but they can't miss any shots and none of them can be using a suppressor. This would require a lot of coordination for the facility guards, so in most cases they will want to avoid 9-6 as much as they can. Even if they manage to get around for an attack during a 9-6 cooldown, they would still need 3 guards if they want to play it safe, 2 if they're smart. The Chaos will still have ammo left in a full mag after the 6 seconds end, but in that time, 3 Logicers is their safest bet. Although with 2 Chaos, they would only have to deal around 100 damage in the enraged period to finish them off. During cooldown, 2 Chaos will work for certain. With the P90 and Epsilon, because of the wide range of damage-altering attachments, I've only made calculations for their lowest and their highest. With the lowest attachments, both P90s and Epsilons have a similar situation to the Chaos. With the highest damage attachments, they'll only need 2 people for either state. In most cases, so long as one of them has a heavy barrel on their gun, 2 MTF should work regardless of what the other is using. This vulnerability, of course, is only a big deal if those fighting 9-6 know what they're doing. If tons of people spot 9-6 on accident and don't do their part, none of the damage dealt by the people who are committing to their attack will be worth it. Hold on, did you see that guy who jumped through the gate gap? In the current version of the game, that would kill you, unless you're an SCP, in which case it's fine. Anyways, if the humans can't shut 9-6 down during the build-up, for anyone who hasn't seen them, they can hide and wait to strike during the cooldown, so 9-6 will want to know what they're doing after their rage ends. While not necessary, it would be helpful for them to travel with an SCP that can actually deal more immediate damage, like a 939 or a 49 for example. SCP-049, especially in the late game, requires some strategy. You have the health health of 17 D-class, you can be taken down by as few as only 2 facility guards. 4-9 strength comes from their ability to expand the numbers of the SCP team. 1 zombie on your team is 1 less spectator waiting to respawn. Zombies may only have 300 HP, but they are strong when they are many. Even just the one following 4-9 around is an extra chunk of health that 4-9 may desperately need. They're also an extra set of hands for dealing damage. A solo 4-9 will probably want to stay in heavy containment and scout out the map while waiting for the facility guards. Killing them first will make your job a lot easier, even better if you can turn them into zombies. Besides serving as extra health and extra hands, they also serve as extra eyes. They can flush the scientists in D-class out of light containment, while 049 keeps control over heavy. If MTF spawns and it's up to 4-9 to deal with it, they're going to want to get somewhere close to checkpoint and try to set up a trap. The best way you're going to deal some damage is if you can get the jump on them. Your attack cooldown can be limiting, but there will be some opportunities to take down multiple enemies at a time. Even if you are safe, sometimes it's a good idea to push a little bit and skip on reviving someone if it means you can eliminate more targets. With most engagements, you'll only be able to revive 1 person. It will absolutely not be worth it to tank some damage to revive someone in front of the MTF. Ideally, you want to fall back and grab kills whenever you can, then push when you have some zombies who can take some hits for you. But the effectiveness of 4-9 depends a lot on whatever the situation is. You are a powerful SCP, but you cannot afford to take a lot of damage. The only real tank SCP is 106. First thing you should do as 106 is place a portal inside your room somewhere, especially if you're going to go to light containment. If you are grabbing people out of 914, there's a chance that they're carrying cards for entering your room, and players will escape the pocket dimension much more often than you might think. The reason why you don't want anyone inside of your room is because there's a mechanism inside for recontaining you. Recontainment will mean death regardless of your location or health remaining. In the center of the room is a place where a human can enter the femur breaker. This is a sacrifice as it will kill them, but following that, another human can press this red button to activate it. You'll know if it's been activated as a unique yelling sound will play across the facility. Shortly after, you'll sink into the ground and die. Another important thing to know is that even if someone opens one of your doors, like with checkpoints, they only remain open for a short period of time, so you don't need to worry about them being left open for anyone to walk into. Because of this recontainment system, it's easily possible for 106 to be defeated within the first few minutes of the match. If you are going to roam around light containment, watch the targets counter in the top right side of the screen after you grab someone. If the number doesn't drop soon, it might be a good idea to teleport back and see if they've escaped. 106 will be the best for taking on spawn waves. With their projectile resistance, they have the equivalent to 6500 HP. They can still be taken down, but 106 doesn't need to worry so much about rationing their health out for every push. If you ever decide to move your portal somewhere else, try to keep it out of sight. If someone with a nade or a micro finds it, they'll have a pretty clear shot at you when you use it. It takes around 5 seconds to ascend and descend, so you'll want to avoid using your teleport as a means of escaping as well. While 106 has its weaknesses, they probably have the most options out of any SCPs for how they can handle a match. It won't be hard for them to send dozens of humans to the pocket dimension, they'll just need to keep an eye on their containment chamber. SCP-939, while absolutely not a tank, also has a handful of options due to their mobility. Most SCPs only have 1 movement speed, but 939 actually has a sprint, and can move at nearly the same speed as humans. 939 is the most viable SCP for chasing players. If you are just walking, your footsteps will be silent. Most players who listen will turn away from a door if they think an SCP is on the other side, and all SCPs have unique footsteps, so walking can be useful for surprising enemies. I mentioned it in the first half of this video that 939 can use V for proximity chat with humans. You may figure you could use it to lure someone out of a locked room, but in reality, nobody's going to fall for it. At the absolute best, if you happen to be able to talk to a human through a wall, you could use it to try and gather information, such as from a recent respawn, who might know, for example, where the last scientist is hiding. Speaking of walls, 939's models are large. If you're pressed up against a door or a wall, your head or your tail may stick through it, so you'll want to stay back just a little. This goes for T-posing zombies as well. Not only will it reveal you, but it will make you vulnerable too, and 939, like 49, will want to preserve as much of their health as they can. Another thing 939 will want to watch out for is players fleeing behind locked doors or elevators. Because it requires 2 hits for 939 to make a kill, you can easily be jumped past, making it easy to lure you into a trap. With elevators, even if you think you can make it inside before the human can send it, unless it's an elevator to surface, it might just be safer to wait and see where they go. If you get juked into an elevator, you're going to lose a lot of ground on your target. It will be much worse with a locked room if you don't have a computer to get you out. SCP-079 has the most unique gameplay in Secret Lab. Most people don't know what to do with 79, which can be rough considering that the computer has the potential for for the most carnage. Doors are everything in Secret Lab. When all a human can do is run, a door can mean the difference between life and death. When you take doors away from humans, only then are they truly hopeless. As 079, you use doors against humans. First of all, let's understand camera modes. You have two, which I will be calling Precision Mode and First Person Mode. You can toggle between these two using spacebar. In Precision Mode, they slowly turn to follow your mouse, moving whenever your cursor gets close to the edge of the screen. In First Person Mode, your mouse is locked to the center, and you can turn your camera as you would your head like with the other roles. The only reason you wouldn't be using First Person Mode all the time is because the cameras can only turn so far, and sometimes door icons will be too far away to look at directly. In Entrance Zone, cameras can only turn left and right, so if there are any icons you want to click on that aren't within your reach, you'll have to switch to Precision Mode to free your mouse cursor. You will want to use a combination of both camera modes, First Person Mode for looking around quickly, and Precision Mode for interactions. There are 3 different ways to switch the active camera you are seeing through. One is to click on the camera icons, one is to bring up the map of the current zone with tab and click on the specific room you want to go to, and the other is to use WASD. Cameras aren't often mounted facing the same direction, so you can get a little disoriented when switching. If you're going to use the movement keys, note that the direction you choose is not parallel to the room, but to the camera itself. So it's possible that with cameras that don't turn all the way, you may end up somewhere you didn't intend. The only time where you'll have to use something other than the map is for getting between heavy and entrance. The map only displays the zone that you are in, so you'll have to manually move through the cameras at the checkpoint to get to entrance. For getting to surface or light containment, you just need to go to the room with the elevator, and there will be a button you can click to switch floors. This goes for all elevators. When you spawn as 079, you'll want to find one of your allies to follow around. I said at the start of the video that you should have a microphone. Communicating with your teammates will be especially important as the computer. You'll only be capable of so much starting out. 79 has limited power, EXP, and levels. You start with 100 AP, auxiliary power, which is what you will use to switch cameras and interact with things. It regenerates, but it will take a while to restore while you are still at Access Tier 1. When you level up your Access Tier, your maximum AP increases, and so does your regeneration speed. You'll gain a little bit of XP whenever you interact with doors, but you'll gain much more if you can assist an ally in getting kills, usually between 35 and 60 XP depending on the role terminated. What matters to getting XP for kills is that a nearby door interaction occurred shortly before a target was killed. As for doors, when you hover over their icon, it will expand into 2 buttons. The left one opens and closes the door, and the right one locks it. Locking doors will drain your power and can be cancelled with right click. You can lock as many doors as you have the power to sustain. Some things will require more power than others. Elevators cost 15, switching floors costs 30, containment 2 doors cost 40, 914 costs 50, Tesla gates cost 50, entrance gates cost 60, locking down a room costs 60, which is a feature you need Access Tier 2 for, and 106's door costs 110 power, making it impossible to interact with them at level 1. The surface nuke room door also costs 110 power. While all SCPs have a target's remaining counter at the top right of their screen, you will be able to tell exactly what their roles are. You can check this at the top left of your map screen. It'll also display the number of Chaos Insurgents, if any. There are 2 ways that 079 can be recontained. One way, which is the most common, is for all the other SCPs to be defeated. When 79 is the last SCP remaining, heavy containment will undergo an overcharge, which is where all the doors will lock and the lights will go out. During this, 79 will die. The other way is to initiate the overcharge earlier by activating generators. Generators will appear in most key locations in heavy containment. In some rooms, 2 can spawn. There will be a total of 5. In order to be turned on, they must first be unlocked using an Armory Tier 2 card. This means that all NTF will have access. Afterwards, they will need to place a Weapon Manager tablet in this spot in the upper left corner. A timer of 1 minute and 10 seconds will start. When finished, the generator will be active. 079 will receive an alert every time a generator has been turned on. They will be able to see the active generator locations on their map. In order to stop a generator, someone has to press the cancel button. SCPs can do this too. Obviously, you don't want all of them to be active, but it's actually a good idea to let a few of them go. An active generator will increase your power regeneration. By the time most generators are on and you've reached Access Tier 4, your power will restore fast enough that you won't need to worry about saving up for anything anymore. It's even possible that you can force a Tesla to fire almost constantly, making it impossible to pass. Again, what's most important as 79 is that you work with your allies. You are the most dangerous SCP, but you aren't going to win without your team. If you've made it this far, then thanks for watching. While I've put together a lot of information for this guide, there are a lot of specifics that are probably bound to change as time goes on, so I wouldn't worry about memorizing everything so long as you understand the fundamentals. I know in the future, SCPs are going to get reworked and more assets replaced, so I don't expect this game to stay the same for too long. I don't know where the devs plan on taking this game, but if I can ask anything of Northwood, it would be great if there was a tutorial. How to play shouldn't be something you need to discover. This video was edited in HitFilm Express. The low-detail characters and items were drawn using GIMP, and all the animations were done in Blender. At the end of my previous guide for when 079 was released, I said some things about projects I clearly haven't made. I completely forgot about those and probably won't be returning to them. For anyone who's been here since before 2016, I'm sure you'd already know how bad I am with planning anything, which makes it a miracle that this video even made it out. I usually only do something once, then move on to something completely unrelated. At least that's how I like doing things. The original guide was thrown together very quickly, and after it was posted, I didn't think I was going to be making anything relating to SCP again. Despite not being a very good guide, in my opinion, that video was received well, so of course I thought about what I could do better. While I wouldn't have made this video if I really didn't want to, it did get a bit exhausting the longer it went on. So even if Secret Lab gets flipped on its head sometime in the future, I don't think I'll be making another guide on it. Obviously there are things I would like to do next, but instead of saying that I have something planned and risk having someone actually wait on those things, I'll just say I have no idea what comes next, if anything, and I guess that's it.